but I don't think we can start until we know how to pronounce your name.
It's right there.
There's people out there that don't know how to pronounce your name.
You can
Man.
see it's pronounced Matthias. No, I'm kidding. I feel actually the amount of people who are going to call me Matthias now. No, it is Matthias. 3 syllables, Matthias.
Yeah. What were the 2 reasons that it was 2 reasons that your parents named you Matthias?
Yes, that's correct. Well, yeah, well remembered. So
well, you told me this like 2 days ago. So
first, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I feel like I've told you before, but maybe it was like I was telling somebody else and you were there.
I was there.
Yeah, in that sense, yeah. You got a refresher, but yeah, so the first and pious reason is that I was born on May 16th, which is 2 days after the feast of Saint Matthias, and so yeah, that made sense to call me Matthias. I'm also born on the feast of Saint Brendan, which is my middle name. Cool. And also my dad's name, so it was very providential that way. And the second reason, which honestly probably had a slightly bigger role in the decision-making process, is from a series of children's books called Redwall, which are excellent about a abbey of anthropomorphic animals in an abbey called Redwall Abbey, and the main character of the first book is called Matthias.
Glad.
And in fact, it was if I was going to be a girl, and my mother has incredibly good intuition, like she knows when people, she often like can discern when women are pregnant, and she's like really good at guessing the genders of babies. She just has this like maternal instinct. Yeah, I don't know, it's crazy, but she was like 100% certain I was going to be a girl. I don't know why. And I was going to be called Mariel in that case, which is actually another Redwall name. So they were like...
And there's no saint to...
well, it means like Little Mary. So it's
cool.
like, yeah, so it is like a Marian name, I guess.
Cool.
But
cool.
And actually my friend's daughter, my goddaughter's older sister, is actually called Mariel now. Again, for both reasons. Both the Redwall and the Little Mary reason. But yeah, it's a cute name.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is your second time on the show.
It is,
so
yeah.
Welcome back.
But my first time with you, so yeah.
First time with me.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
I wish Kane was here.
Yeah. For the lore, it would come full circle.
Yeah. Because we started working at the same time.
That's right.
Pretty much around the same time.
Yeah. You were off in...
I was off. Yeah, I was
in
India for a week, so I kind of delayed my start. But what's it been like working here for the past couple of months or past half year?
Yeah, it's been like just over 6 months at this stage. Yeah, I was just saying because I mean, easy to remember. May 16th, feast of Saint Brendan, and my birthday was the first day I worked here, so I'll never forget that.
That's fast.
May 16th, 2023. That's the current year, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
don't know why. What?
Wait, what?
Why did you hesitate there?
Because I don't know what year it is.
Actually, funny story with the day I started as well. It was the exact same day that Eva started.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember my first day, I took a picture of me sitting at Eva's old desk and I sent it to Eva. And she then realized that it was her first day. That was the same day that she started as well.
Right.
So she basically sent me a text like, "You're basically just living my life right now."
And it's crazy, yeah. Because also, I mean, I think we talked about this before, but for those of you who aren't aware, Dion was my successor, bar one, in the Newman Society, in UCD Newman Society, which is the Catholic Society in UCD. Because I was the auditor in 2021 to 2022, and then Heather, who has been on Encounter before, was the auditor 23 or 22 to 23, and now you're the auditor 23 to 24. But also Eva was the auditor the year before me, so there's a long chain of auditors working for Radio Maria, and but yeah, so you really are you're just Eva's second try at life.
That's so funny. Anyways, I cut you off on how.
Yes, sorry, no, I cut myself off more so. But it's been amazing. It's been really, really nice. It's been, it's just nice to kind of feel like you're doing work which you feel like you have some kind of expertise at, which you feel like you can actually contribute towards, but then it also feels like you're not just like another cog in a corporate machine or something like that. You're not just like filling out spreadsheets so some hedge fund manager can get rich. Like it's like, no, you're actually like making a difference in people's lives. And it's one of the amazing things about like, some ways you can feel like you're just like clocking in, and some days you feel more like I'm on a mission. Some days you're like, I'm just getting my work done. But then you get a call from somebody and they're like, yeah, Radio Maria really made like an enormous difference in my life, and like for whatever reason. And it's like, I think it's really, really helping a lot of people grow in faith, or, have like, just even like the smallest thing of having like a friendly Catholic voice on the radio is really makes a huge difference to a lot of people.
No, there's so much potential. I don't think I realized that potential until I came here. It's the same reason. Like I thought it was going to come in. I'm going to come in, kind of clock in, do my hours, leave.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you don't realize until you come in that it's actually there's so much potential here to do so many good
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and this looks a lot different to the last time I did Encounter, because last time I did Encounter,
It was just
we didn't film it at all.
Yeah.
It was over the far side, where Kyola.
Oh, so you guys were just like facing each other?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were just chilling. I was probably like had a little fidget spinner. I've actually never spun a fidget spinner. It's one of my few proud achievements. I've ever spun a fidget spinner. I got all the way through whatever 2018, 2017. Remember that was crazy.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that because I remember funny enough, we were in first year when fidget spinners came out, and it was like, I think the day after or like the week after it became a thing.
Yeah,
everyone had it. And we had a sleepover in our school. It's like an annual thing.
That's so fun.
Did the first years do? Yeah. And so everyone just had like fidget spinners for the entire day, and so I remember waking up at night and everyone was just lying down on like the sports hall floor, just going on their hands. But yeah, that was cool the way that. So you've never spun a fidget spinner?
No, because I like didn't do it for quite a while, and I was like, oh, but lads, imagine if I never did this, and then I haven't. So
why?
Just because it'd be fun. I also haven't dabbed in like 6 or 7 years.
Oh, cool.
Because I like made a decision because my cousin Melissa, who's actually coming into the Human Society
this Monday,
on Monday, yeah. But she's works for Students for Life now. But she just, I don't know what, but she just like stopped dabbing. She just like made a vow that she like wouldn't dab for a year or something.
I'll fit this up.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was like, oh, it's like you're like abstaining from dabbing. I was like, you're like dabstinence. Oh. So we started calling it dabstinence. And then she, at the end of the year, she dabbed and she put an end to her mortification.
Cool.
By adding to her mortification. But then I've kept it going. So yeah, that's
cool.
How do we get on this?
I honestly can't remember.
There was something actually edifying and spiritual that led us on to fidget spinners.
We can make this into a segue.
We can circle back.
No, do you know what? I can't think of a segue. Let's just change.
Let's just like a fidget spinner. We will rapidly turn around.
Cool. Well, anyway, we were saying how you came on with Cian.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Been, obviously, a good while now.
Yeah, because that was before I worked here.
So it was probably it's been a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Could you give like a brief summary on your sort of testimony? So like your upbringing.
Yeah. No, I imagine there's probably like not a huge amount of overlap with people who will have heard because it's been a while. But yeah, if you have, apologies. But yeah, I'll try to keep it fresh. So yeah, I mean, I'm part of the Conroy family. You guys, for those of you who've been listening for a few months or a year, you'll know Eva and you'll know David. So there's a lot of us. David's my cousin. He was my sister. So we're probably one of the big, like there's like big individual Catholic families in Ireland. Like there's like family with like 10 kids and they're all practicing, which are amazing. And there's really cool people like that. But in terms of like extended families, it's like us, the Johnsons, and I guess the Aherns are actually kind of rocking that way as well. But yeah, so in terms of like a big extended Catholic family in Ireland, kind of the Conroys come to mind, because there's 20 of us and we're all still practicing, which is amazing. Thanks be to God. So yeah, like my parents would have both been brought up with like daily mass going parents, and I don't know if they always would have been, but certainly in latter life they would have been daily mass going and would have really cared about the faith. I think especially my dad's parents met in Edinburgh, cool. Outside the cathedral there. My grandfather used to use his pioneer pin to strike up conversations with girls.
What a legend!
I know, exactly. He had that pioneer raise. He had that prohibition raise, or what's the temperance? Temperance raise. Yeah. But and I think they were both involved with the Legion of Mary, actually, which is very apropos of the Legion connection with Radio Maria. But yeah, so they met there, and obviously being my grandmother was from Northern Ireland, and my grandfather was from Galway, and but yeah, being in Scotland, which is obviously principally Protestant, like Presbyterian for the most part, and Episcopalian, so you really had to know how to defend your faith because you were in a minority there. You weren't just kind of like at that point in, I don't know when they met, would have been the 40s or 50s, but it was in Ireland, it was probably pretty still pretty taken for granted that you would be Catholic, and kind of just your family was Catholic and everything like that. So they really learned about apologetics and how to defend your faith. And they really prioritize that in the Legion and elsewhere, and both are very well read. And like my grandfather would have really gotten into Scott Hahn like in latter years and stuff like that. So like really would have been both very well read and educated. And that really inspired an attitude in my dad and all of his younger sisters of like curiosity and willingness to question the faith, and not like just take it for granted, or like there were no questions that were off limits. And so that attitude of learning and curiosity and really grappling with your faith. I think that the Jewish tradition does a really good job of prioritizing that scene of Jacob wrestling with the angel, or even wrestling with God, as the angel is kind of the representative of God in that case. And that's something which is very prominent in their tradition, the idea of wrestling with God. And it's not something we talk about as much. Depends, some saints kind of prioritize it, but the idea of not just like there's a time for docility, and there's a time for activeness. In terms of, I think that really stood to my dad and his family, in terms of they've all kept the practice of the faith. A lot of them have worked in Catholic things at various different times, or have debated, or have done pro-life work, or all of them have done pro-life work in some way or shape or form. So that's kind of the environment in which I was born into. My mother as well, like her parents would have been quite involved in the charismatic renewal, and probably wouldn't have been as vocal about the faith and wouldn't have discussed it as much. But my mother is very intelligent and curious, and she did theology in college, so that kind of helped her to like get sort of into that mindset as well. So that was kind of the environment I was born into. So it was kind of like the deck was very stacked in my favor for being a dedicated Catholic. But that said, like I think that I believed in God, and I believed a lot of things about God, or maybe it even makes more sense to say I believed that God existed, and I believed that God was everywhere, and believed that Jesus was truly present in the Eucharist and stuff like that, and I kind of had all these like beliefs that if you like, I believe that X up until probably I was like 11 or 12, no, probably a little bit later, even actually 13 or 14, and that's kind of when I started to kind of make the faith like to I was gonna say make the faith my own. It's not exactly the right way to put it, but like accept the faith on my own, and not just take it as something which was received. Where it was like it went from just questioning it to actually like, or not from just kind of accepting it as a series of propositions to actually realizing it as a relationship.
Cool.
And so it was around that time because I was homeschooled, which doesn't actually really have anything to do with the fact that we're a dedicated Catholic family. I know a lot of Catholic families these days have concerns about the school system and so forth, and that's kind of why they do it. For us, it was actually a bunch of contingent reasons that we had friends who did it. My brother, basically school didn't suit him. He was very smart, and he's still he's doing a PhD in philosophy, so he's been smart for a while, but then he also like struggled with handwriting, so just the school system wasn't facilitating him. So that's why I was homeschooled. But I got to make my confirmation like a couple of years after the average age. I think I was 14 or 15 when I made it. And that meant that in preparation for my confirmation, I really got to grapple with kind of the fullness of or not the fullness, but kind of got to get a taste of the fullness of the church's tradition. I did a really cool program where you go through the UCAT and like read through different parts of it in preparation for your confirmation.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the like preparation look like for someone that's homeschooled?
Right. So it was, there's this book, which I actually would highly recommend, called Confirmed in Christ. It's like a big kind of, I don't know, a 3.5 size kind of book. It's pretty big. Some of you may know it, but it goes through the UCAT, and it basically gives you like, you have to read a section of the UCAT, and then it has like a reflection on it, and it has like certain things to do in preparation. So I kind of just worked through that, and you end up working through like a lot of the UCAT, and for a person of that age, I think it's a really, really good resource. And
it was just your parents that were guiding you through
exactly.
That time. Cool.
Yeah, it was. And then I met with my parish priest, and we had a few chats, beforehand, just to make sure I was like ready and I knew what I was getting into and stuff like that, which was really, really good. Because it meant that it was, it was an intentional decision where it was like, I was actually already practicing the faith, and like I was like the night before my confirmation, I was out doing night fever out in the streets of Grafton Street. So like I was like, I was already trying to evangelize, and so it was kind of like it was setting that what was already the work that God had already done in my life. It was like setting it ablaze with the grace of the Holy Spirit. So that was really cool. And I think that's really like, I think it was maybe a year or two before that, I made my first like really mature, like proper confession, and really kind of started to encounter Jesus properly in the Eucharist, not just like, okay, God is present in this, but like, no, I'm actually this person, the person of Jesus Christ, who I'm in relationship with, is truly present in this, in adoration and in Mass and so on. So yeah, I think that's kind of that's the kind of what led me to this moment. And there's been a lot of growth and backsliding and ups and downs and all that kind of stuff since then. But
can you pinpoint that moment of realization or no?
Of which of
just realizing this, this is my faith and not something that I'm just going to receive.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it was probably like a series of little moments which all kind of like combined, and it's kind of a boring answer. It makes for less exciting testimony, but it's I have a lot of people experience it. But yeah, so I think that like there's probably times like reading through that confirmation course, and then kind of realizing that I needed to be like more honest and more vulnerable in confession and in prayer. I think was like a big thing of like we were talking. Were you there at the catechism class last Sunday?
Yes.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, we were in the same group.
Yeah.
Which is great. But there was that question of like, when did you realize that you needed a savior, or like can you point it out that you needed a savior? And I think one of the things we were talking about, which is, sorry to explain, UCD, we have people who are interested in becoming Catholic, and then people who are interested in learning more about the faith. And so we have these weekly catechism classes, which are peak. They're some of the highlights of my week. They're really, really cool. Like it's my third year going, I think, and I'm still learning new things and coming to new insights, and seeing things in a different light. They're amazing. But yeah, I think that kind of like, I don't know if I could point to a particular point where I like formulated the thought like I need a savior, but there's a bunch of moments where I realized that I needed saving, and that God was the one who was going to save me from that. So I think it was like there was plug Youth 2000. Youth 2000 really did a big deal for me. Like even before I was 15, I could like go to retreats, or even 16. Is it 16? I think 16 now. So when I was like 14, 15, I would sometimes like go for the day with my family, and then we'd drive back, or like I'd stay with my cousins or whatever, to kind of like get in before I could, strictly speaking, stay on site. But yeah, that had a huge impact. That's kind of like, really powerful experiences in confession and adoration there. And like there's talks I went to like, almost 10 years ago now, like 7 years ago, and I still remember things from those talks, and they still like stick with me. Shouts to Peter Sands. That's off the top of my head, he's definitely somebody who gave a talk which has really stuck with me. So shouts to Peter. But yeah, I think it was a bunch of like little moments of God, like like it's like the idea, where is it that the Lord says, I'll crush their hearts of stone, give them hearts of flesh? Is it Isaiah? I don't know. I'm a fraud. Sorry. It's in Here I Am, Lord, which means it probably is Isaiah. I don't know. Anyway, the listeners will know.
Cool. I was gonna ask Thomas to look it up.
Yeah. We'll just edit this out. Just like, as the prophet saith. But yeah, I think that was kind of like a little sort of a gradual process, and it's of coming from a childlike faith. And a faith which is purely intellectual to a faith which had an intellectual undergirding, but then that blossomed into a relationship.
For sure, yeah.
And I think that my relationship was strengthened as a result. Like I'm big on, I don't think it's for everyone, but I think that, for in my own faith, I think like knowing the truths of the faith, to a significant extent, everyone should know them, reasonably well. But I think actually like delving into them and into the church's tradition and its intellectual tradition has really helped me in my own faith. So, but it's not sufficient for me to kind of, it's necessary for me, I think, in my own experience of God, but it's not sufficient. It needs that relationship of prayer as well.
I think, that's so true. Because I think it's those like incremental changes that sort of build up, but then it gets to the point where you have to make a big decision, and like you've made all these small incremental changes, but you didn't have to. So this big change all of a sudden is like, you've made these incremental changes, and if you're going to do it, you might as well you just do it properly. Right. Make the change. Otherwise, these changes, these small ones that you've made, they're kind of pointless. Right. And so I had a very similar experience to that as well.
I was thinking,
kind of just, I mean, I think there was something else in place of E2000 for me, but those people were still as influential
Right.
in my sort of journey as well. They helped me sort of put in place those small incremental changes. And yeah, eventually I can't pinpoint I
Right.
can't pinpoint
Right.
when it was, but I had to eventually say, if I'm going to do this, I might as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do it properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, class.
It's it's a line I always love. It's either Revelation chapter 1 or 2, where Jesus is giving the messages to the different churches. And it's always a line because, you know, there's that thing where it's like, oh, Jesus was like a great philosopher, a great moral teacher, but he wasn't, you know, God. And he wasn't like, he wasn't even trying to claim that he was, you know, anything but a prophet. And it's like in that passage where he says, the lukewarm I'll vomit out of my mouth. And it's like, yeah, classic Confucius. Yeah. Who could forget when Siddhartha Gautama said, the lukewarm I'll vomit out of my mouth. But it's so true that it's like, yeah, it's like, I will either take hot or cold, the lukewarm. So it's like, yeah, like, you know, there's a process of warming up, but then you have to make a decision to actually boil or to freeze. And like, if you kind of, you know, half-ass it, God isn't going to be happy with you staying in that place. Like he's going to challenge you to actually make a serious commitment and to actually put flesh on your prayers. I think one thing which is, and we kind of touched on it, I think it's worth saying, is just like the power of God working through other people is just, you know, I probably didn't talk about this a huge amount in my last encounter appearance, but I think it's so pivotal, like for everyone's experience of faith. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but even just like specifics where it's like just having like a mentor or a spiritual director or both or several mentors as I've had is so powerful and so important. And like I struggled a lot with scrupulosity. I still kind of am recovering, you know, recovering scrupulous person. But just meeting with Father Fergus O'Connor and Father Brendan O'Connor, no relation, but both Oak State priests, who just, they were like, okay, this is what is required of you. This is what's not required of you. Like, this is what you need to confess. This is what you don't need to confess. Like, that was, you know, so helpful for me, because it was like, you know, I was a Dominican I was chatting to recently, and he was like, sometimes for people like us who get in our heads a lot, it can be useful to have heady solutions to heady problems. And that really was, you know, I couldn't really have done that alone, because you know, it's the Summa is great, but it doesn't specifically answer every question. You know, Catholic Answers doesn't specifically answer every question. Actually having a physical person who with wisdom and who is you know, deep in the tradition and deep in their own life of prayer, who can actually like answer these specific questions about your specific situation is invaluable. And then kind of more directly to our experience, having peers who you are like, you know, who are trying to bring you forward and trying to make sure that you're not stagnating and that you're actually growing in your relationship with God is
how did you find those peers how did you find the sort of like how did you find not like trying to get those peers when you were homeschooled?
Great question. So it was an interesting situation for me, because growing up obviously pretty close to the extended family, so like obviously there was a certain amount of peers in that way. We didn't like talk about the faith a huge amount until we were like probably you know, in our teenage years, probably. Like it was kind of like, it was always there in the background, and it was always important. And like we always, you know, pray the rosary together on our grandmother's anniversary and stuff like that. But yeah, so they were kind of my Catholic peers, if you like, for a long time. It was like my siblings and my cousins. But then my other kind of group of friends was through the Home Education Network, which is just a network of home educating families throughout Ireland. And you know, you hear like, oh, Catholic homeschooler, he must have been really sheltered. But said contra, it was, you know, a very, very diverse group of people from different backgrounds. You know, there was evangelical Christians, there was Buddhists, there was atheists, there was agnostics, there was, you know, sort of Taoist kind of like, you know, people who were kind of interested in Eastern spirituality. So it was like really kind of everything in between, and kind of people who picked and chose from different traditions. So that was good, because it meant it gave you kind of, I think that sometimes if you are, you know, for want of a better term, if you are sheltered from the outside world, you can have a kind of a caricature of what non-Christians, non-Catholics are like. And that was just, you know, I saw these people who were good and kind and I was friends with, and, you know, I saw genuinely trying to like seek for truth, but had not, you know, made it all the way there yet. But they were still, you know, people of good faith. And yeah, I think that kind of they were like a lot of my peers, and I subsequently found out that some of them were Catholic, but we didn't actually know this at the time. Like Mary Eve and Seamus, who you know as well. But I think Seamus has been on Radio Maria.
Seamus hasn't been on.
Has he not? Okay,
sometime
yeah,
soon.
For sure, that'd be great. Get him on Kyola Crack and Encounter.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he's still in Piper, so
yeah, cool.
That'd be great. But yeah, so they were in the homeschooling group, but yeah, we didn't know that each other were Catholic,
cool,
so
nice.
So there was like but yeah, so like that was kind of a lot of my peers, and then I think things like U2000, like my older siblings, because I'm the youngest of four, is Eva and then Robin and Ben. They would have gone to U2000 stuff, and so I would have like met their friends, and then yeah, when I was kind of just about old enough, I would go and make my own friends. And, you know, some of those friends I still am fortunate enough to be good friends with to this day.
Cool.
So I think that was, you know, you did have to be intentional about it. Like it's not as easy to sort of just kind of coast in and just like, you know, you have to, your parents and you have to be intentional about finding other people. And you know, probably in retrospect, it would have actually been nice to have a bit more like intentional Catholic community growing up, and maybe some I think a little bit. But I also am aware there wasn't as much stuff for people for that kind of age group as there is now.
Cool.
Like Dominic Street has like the catechism classes for like all different ages, which is great.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I think there could have been an element where it might have made the faith seem more like central to my life. It had started earlier, possibly. I don't know.
That's right.
Projecting,
because I was just expecting that would have been the case, because I didn't know how diverse that program was,
right?
So I would have just thought that you would have just been like, you know, just that would have been your sort of bubble.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
That's good. Okay, that's cool to hear.
Yeah. So and it gave me like a really unique experience, an experience of like, I love talking about the faith. I love like answering questions. It's one of my like favorite things to do is like either Catholics or non-Catholics. Because I spent hours listening to Catholic Answers podcasts and spent fewer hours reading the Church Fathers, like looking up answers to particular questions, and then just like contemplating them myself. But I think that probably was kind of sparked in that time where there was people from different traditions, who you could talk about big questions with, and you're like, I wish I could answer them better.
Yeah.
So I think that was definitely a part of kind of what sparked that. But yeah, no, I think that and it's a shame because like there was like my parents would have known the Ascos from like way back, like they would have done pro-life work together in their like in their respective 20s, which is really cool. But then we were literally like on opposite ends of the Lewis line, and we never linked up until like I don't know, I was like 14 or 15. So yeah, there's 2020 hindsight, you're like that would have been cool. But but I always say about homeschooling and about my childhood that like there's things which I, if I had perfect control, I would change, but like I'm happy with the person it made me.
Cool.
That like I'm happy with the things I was able to pursue and kind of the person that it shaped me into being. Yeah.
What are some of the reactions you actually get in college when you tell people that you're homeschooled?
Yeah, so in college it's been like pretty overwhelmingly positive, which is cool. But it's a lot of curiosity, and like I think at this stage a lot of the stigma around homeschooling has probably been reduced. And like there's a lot of people who have done very well for themselves out of homeschooling, which is cool. Before you used to get a lot of like, we used to call them like the roll eyes questions, where it's like there's like a bunch of it's like, do you have any friends? What's 2 + 2? What was the other one? Anyway, there was like a bunch of like these questions, which is like they would just ask you like these dumb questions, and it was kind of frustrating. But you get used to it, and then as I've gotten older, I think, and as people have seen, homeschool people kind of excel in various different sort of areas, and in the arts and in the sciences and in philosophy and everything. So it's cool to kind of I don't think it's for everyone, but I think it worked well for me, and I think that it's an option people should definitely consider if they can, because I think it really does suit some children very well. So yeah,
cool, great. We've got the title for today's episode.
Yeah, man, it flew by.
Thomas is just giving us a signal there. Thanks for coming on once again.
My pleasure. Yeah.
You're one of the few guests that have come on twice now.
Yeah.
Neil and Eva have come on 3 times. So.
Okay. So you will get me again. Yeah. This is not the last.
We'll tie it up. No, sorry. Eva's only been on twice. Neil's been on 3 times.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah, so I have to beat Neil. Okay. Well. Yeah. That's my rival.
Yeah.
my sworn enemy, Neil Mather.
Cool. Thomas has been getting at me for the past 2 weeks because I haven't been reading out the contact details. So
Oh, right, yeah.
the contact details are going to be on the screen right now. If you want to get in contact with us, if you have any feedback that you want to share with us, if you want to come on the show yourself, get in contact with us. You can text or WhatsApp us at 089 467 2000. You can call us at 014 123 456. You can email us at info@radiomaria.ie, or you can write to us or visit us at our address, which is Radio Maria Ireland, St. Anthony's Business Park, Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. So, until next Saturday.
God bless.
God bless and take care.